Hey everyone, it's Jim
And Charles
from Mellow Amps. And this episode is strictly for the higher mains voltage regions, 220 to 240. If you're in the lower voltage region, you should have been doing building on the previous episode. So let's get going with the higher mains region. So the primary side of the toroidal transformer winding will determine the correct orientation for the mains voltage. And in the case of the higher voltage region, we actually run the two halves of the primary side in series. Whereas in the lower voltage region, we ran them in parallel. Now, everybody, doesn't matter if you're in the high region or the low voltage region, the secondary is identical, so you don't need to worry about that. So the blue wire is going to become the primary, or the hot, and the brown is going to be the neutral, and we're going to join up with a splice the gray and the violet. So let's grab our toroidal and we'll just get organized and get this thing together. Okay, so the first thing to do is to set aside the hardware and the washers.
We'll come back to these in a minute.
And transformer manufacturers are really organized people. So what they did was they made a bundle of wires that are all the secondary wires, so we're not concerned about these for the moment. This is the primary side, or the wall side, and we want to find the gray and the violet. And what we want to do is we want to make a splice. So we don't want to cut too close to the shrink. We want enough room that we can come in here. Let me get you on camera so you can really see what I'm doing.
I'll hold these out of the way.
So we want a splice that is fairly close, but it's about there. Why don't we grab a ruler and just jump in there?
You don't want it so close that you can't come in and do a little bit of rework if you need to.
Yeah, so you're looking at about 20 millimeters. Give or take. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now, these off-cut wires are always going to have some use later on. They're really high quality, so throw them in your scrap pile. Everybody should have a scrap pile of wire. And while we're getting this done, let's get our soldering iron on. Now, for splicing wires and for tinning wires, you actually don't need to be that hot. So we're going to start at 355 C, which is about 670 Fahrenheit. And we're just going to strip back a little bit of wire here. Now always start a little bit on a strip that you think might not quite fit, because you don't want to nick the wire and score it and damage it. So let's see if that works. No, it's just a little bit short, so now I'll go down a strip point and I'm going to do it a little bit tighter, and that should make, yeah, that makes a perfect strip now. So now we know which one we want. So just go ahead and twist the bundles of stranded wire together, and then we're going to bring them together and just get them so that you have a cross. So let's just get that going like that. Let's neatenize that a little bit. There we go. You see how I've got it? Now it's easy. Now we just twist them into a nice little tight bundle. Now we've got a protective pad because we don't want to damage the top plate that's coming on. And just for a moment, I'm just going to put a little scrap of something underneath so I can catch any drips so I don't make a mess of things. We need just a very tiny little bit of flux. And And what I'm showing you is good for butt splices, and it's also good for tinning wires. So the same method will work, because we're almost doing the same thing. The only difference between tinning and splicing is that we have 2 wire bundles instead of 1. So I'm actually going to make sure I've got a very clean tip. See how that's tinned and ready to go? And it's also a 1/8 chisel tip. So it's a perfect tip. You need some surface area to do this. So if you've been running a smaller tip, go up to a bigger size if you've got one. So just come in underneath. And you see how I'm feeding the solder on top as well? And you can also come in on top a little bit. And you see how the solder has taken up into the wire? And that's it. Don't fuss with it. You're all done. Now we want to make this as safe as we can. So go ahead and grab a little length of the larger red tubing that you've got. We're looking at about 25 millimeters, which is just a little over an inch. Just slide that over like this. It's going to be snug, but we want it to be snug. So just take a moment to get it down. And then go ahead and shrink that on. I'll see you back in a minute. Okay, I'm going to show you a little trick. While it's hot, just come in and pinch that off so it's closed.
You can do that with a set of pliers too. It is going to be pretty toasty.
Yeah. Okay, one last thing to do is to install a piece of shrink. It's pre-cut, so you don't need to cut it to length. Just open it up like this. A pencil works great for this job. And grab the bundle. Now, these 4 wires are going to end up being paired off, so the red and yellow are going to end up together, and the orange and black will end up together. So it actually helps to organize them a little bit when they go through the shrink. So let's just get it all kind of organized here. Can be slightly fussy, but once you get the hang of it. Okay, now you can only get the shrink down as far as the yellow wire, and that's just fine.
And we want it to intentionally go off on an angle flat like this. Don't try to straighten it out, because they're going to go over and then through a hole on an angle.
Yeah. Okay, so go ahead and shrink that on, and I'll see you back. Okay, now your top plate is double-sided. And one side is going to be probably a little better than the other. As good as our manufacturer is, there's always some little tiny flaws here and there. And
we made it double-sided, so you can just pick whatever one looks best.
yeah, and this one looks fine. We actually have already assembled this plate once, so there's a few marks on it, but this side is going to work out just fine for us. So now you want to work on a soft cloth. That's really important. And the first thing we want to do is to install this mount for the toroidal transformer. So you're going to need 3 of these M3x8 truss heads and 3 of the M3x12 standoffs. And it just goes on like this.
Easiest if you put in one machine screw at a time.
Yeah, just take your time.
And while working on the top plate, you also want to be wary of your screwdriver or your socket slipping and scratching things up.
Yeah, it's very easy to scratch things. So just go ahead and get all 3 on loosely, and I'll see you back in a minute. Okay, so we're going to snug these up, and then we're going to tighten them down. Now, the reason we're tightening them down right now is because all of this is going to get buried in the sandwich construction that we're about to do. So just start off by just carefully snugging everything down, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with
actually, before you finish snugging it down, let's make sure that our transformer bolt will actually go all the way through, and it will, so we're good there.
So I'm going to load my 5mm socket on my wrench, but I'm not going to torque by holding the wrench way back here. That's maximum torque. I'm going to hold it way up here where I have much more control over it, and And I'm not even going to load a screwdriver. I'm just going to hold the bit like this, and I'm just going to snug it down. Now the reason why we have to be careful is brass threads are really soft compared to stainless steel, and it's easy to strip these out. So just go easy on the torque. Once it's snug, you're done. Okay, well, it's time to drop the transformer on. Okay, so be careful now. The exposed tips of the wire can scratch things, so you don't want to drag them over your top plate.
So we're going to grab our large rubber washer and we're going to drop it right on here. Don't worry if it's not bang on straight, we can adjust it afterwards.
And then we're just going to start feeding wires. Just like this. This is one of those jobs where if you have a helper, it makes it go a little easier, but you can manage by yourself if you need to. Now, this bundle of wires goes straight down, and this bundle here, with the orange and red and yellow wires, it comes in at an angle, and it just slides over. It's just slightly fussy. Get your toroidal transformer so that you're basically centered. And once we've got it centered, and it's worthwhile fussing now because it's a lot easier to install things if you get it close to the center. Now we're going to install
the top washer and the metal cover here, but first we're going to take our little spring washer here and we're going to get rid of it because we don't need it for this job.
Well, we're going to keep it in our surplus pile. You never know when you need a spring washer.
We're going to take our M5 bolt, we're going to pre-feed it through here, and then this is really hard to show on camera, but if you look in, you can get it fed through the hole. There we go.
Now, you're going to have to hold on to this whole assembly and not let it wander around. Turn it over, and you're going to have to press a little bit.
You get your actual washer on there, and then this is our M5 nut that takes a 10 millimeter socket. So we're going to get that finger tight.
Okay. And now I'm going to see if we can find our sockets.
Yeah, you're going to need one for each side here.
Okay, that's as far as I can go by hand. Now before I tighten it up, I'm going to take a look. And I'm going to see, I'm pretty close to straight down here. I'm nice and centered here. Don't worry if your rubber washers are slightly off. This is about as good as you're ever going to get it. Same on the bottom. So long as you're close, even if you're off slightly, call it good. Don't fuss with it. If it's way, way off center, then okay, you're going to have to loosen things off and adjust it. But otherwise, go with what you've got. Okay, now before we do the final torquing, caution everyone, the transformer windings are just enameled copper wire, and they're actually quite a small gauge, as you can see. If you over torque this, you will possibly cut the enameling and possibly short out the transformer. So all you want to do is snug this down until it's on nice and solidly, and then you have to stop. Now these rubber washers that they put underneath will help with the torquing, and I'm going to show you my method for torquing. So I'm going to load up a 10 mil socket, and I'm not going to put a wrench on the other end. I'm just going to hold an extension bar.
And it's 10 mil on both sides.
Yep. Now, I'm not going to hold the wrench way over here where I get maximum torque. I'm going to hold it up here where I have more control over the torque. And I'm just going to snug it up. You're going to actually feel the rubber compress a little bit. And then once that starts to get firm, then you're probably done. But there's a way to check to see if you're on hard enough. First, we're going to look for alignment. Don't worry if you're off center a little bit with the rubber, so long as you're basically underneath. They put lots of material there to give you room to slop it around. Everything is looking good. We're dropping straight down. So now we're just going to check, and if the transformer doesn't move very much, so it's on firm. That's it, you're done. Well, okay, go grab the top and we'll get it on. Okay, so take a look at your cover. You may find that you have a better face for the public side to face forward, and this one's looking pretty good. Yeah, maybe this is even better. And you're going to have a cut edge and a finished edge. So let's put the finished edge up. We'll put the cut edge against the top plate. So it's really easy to scratch things up. So we're going to try a method that Charles has developed and see if that works well. So what you're going to do is you're going to carefully lower the whole assembly while you're looking through one of the corner holes and just get it lined up.
And if you have somebody else to help you, that really makes a difference here. I'm going to get one of these M4. We're kind of out of focus here. M4 machine screws, and yeah, that's looking pretty good. Let me get that out of the way.
Okay, so just snug them down and I'll see you back in a minute. Okay, so now after they're just snugged down, turn everything over and check for alignment. So this is a good place to look. So the back edge of the top plate should be parallel with the back edge of the transformer cover. And you're on a bit of an angle here on the camera, but from my point of view, it's just perfect. You might have a little wiggle room. Now, everything here is going to get buried, so it's important it's all torqued down at this point. And I'm going to load my bit into my screwdriver. Now, caution, that's an open-barreled threaded aluminum extrusion that you're screwing into, so you have to be very careful to not over-torque it. So just snug it down until...
Sorry, the camera focuses on whatever's closest to it here. There we go.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, well, that's a big chunk of the job all done.
We'll see you in the next episode.